Our next segment for you is a panel discussion focusing on NexGen consumer journeys, AI agents as discovery, negotiation, and purchase assistant. Moderating this panel discussion, we have with us Mr. Mouli V, Vice President, AI PayPal. With a round of applause, please join me in welcoming on stage our moderator for this panel discussion, Mr. Mouli. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us out here, sir. Allow me the opportunity to also welcome on stage our eminent speakers, our panelists for this discussion. We have Mr. Anup Daware, CIO, Duroflex, Mr. Mohan Krishna Deverapalli, Senior Director of Engineering, PayU, Mr. Sudheer Reddy, Founder and CEO, TripGain, Professor Vikram Pandya, Principal, Varanium NexGen Fund. Thank you, eminent panelists, for joining us. Please take your seats. Talking about next-gen consumer journeys, AI agents as discovery, negotiation, and purchase assistant, let's dive straight into this discussion. Mr. Mouli, please lead the way.
Thank you so much. Morning, everyone. Good to be back here. So, very interesting topic, very futuristic. I'm hoping that when we look at this video 3 years later, we realize how many of the things that we got right and how many of the things we got wrong. So, it's going to be a very fascinating discussion. I have an amazing panel with me. So, I'm going to do a quick go around with everyone. You've heard, their names and their background, so we'll just jump in. So we'll do a quick pulse check. Okay. So maybe starting with Sudheer, you, and then,
Sure.
So we're seeing AI evolve from assistants to systems that execute on behalf of users. So autonomy plus decision making. In one sentence, maybe one or two sentences, what's the most significant change AI agents are already introducing into consumer journeys? What made you say, wow, I mean, this is different, this is game changing?
Okay. So I'll limit my answer to travel because I'm from a travel background. So the most significant change that I've seen and I'm very fascinated about is that users or consumers are now, instead of searching, they're actually delegating the tasks to agents, which means that they're absolutely trusting the agent to execute a task, which means that they believe that the agent is a true replacement of the human being to a large extent. So that's in a sentence, that's what's fascinating me.
Yes. Anup?
Yeah, right. So this entire change that is happening in the way products are being discovered in the industry with the help of AI agents, that is truly fascinating. What is happening here is while you have to ensure that your UX is still human-centric because finally human is the consumer, you also have to ensure that all your storefronts are ready for agents to traverse through and get that information properly.
Excellent. We're going to dive into that when I come back to you.
Sure.
Mohan?
I mean, in my view, 20 years back, we have mobile revolution where a lot of e-commerce has moved to mobile. I mean, it adds a lot of convenience to the end consumers. Wherever they are on the go, they will be able to do it. Now, again, we have another, seismic effect right now where we are changing from the paradigm of asking and waiting, right? Let's say when you want to buy, you do a lot of search, find things, and then do it. We are changing completely from that paradigm to proactively someone acting on behalf of you and then completing things, right? So that's a huge shift to which we are going towards. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mohan. Vikram?
Thanks. So there is a saying that gain comes to those who are at the right time and right place, right? And given the digital age, the right place is, let's say, internet, but we cannot be there at the right time when the price is lower. But with this, everyone can be at the right time and right place.
Very nice. Very interesting perspective. So there are several layers to this whole agentic commerce, and what we're going to do over the next 36 minutes is to unpack each of the layers, okay? Because the complexity actually, or the devil is in the details, as they say. So we're going to start with the starting point, which is the discovery layer, and this is discovery without browsing, just so that we can all relate to it. So Anup, I'm going to kick it off with you. being part of the consumer, story. So you run technology for a consumer brand. So here's the challenge. Today, a customer Googles best mattress for back pain. Okay, lands on your site, browses and buys. Tomorrow, their assistant, they're probably at the doctor's office with the back pain. Their assistant basically tell the assistant, hey, figure this out, right? And it's going to come in and purchase. Right? Now, without ever visiting Duroflex.com. How do brands adapt to remain visible and chosen when AI mediates discovery?
Yeah, a very excellent question. Um, so the way the entire consumer industry is going to shape with the advent of the agentic way of discovery is going to be a huge transformation. I remember the early days of .com when people used to build their website keeping only SEO in mind, and in initial days they were very successful as well. But then the technology caught up, and if you see today, what works well for humans generally works well for the search algorithms as well. Similarly, when the agentic AI would come, while you really have to ensure that your websites are simple enough and conducive enough for agents to really make sense out of it, and you add a lot of truth and discoverability for AI agents. If you have a mindset of hacking into that, that might work for some time, but really you have to ensure that you're again keeping the human at center, even with all the changes that are happening in this particular area, to ensure that you are not just building for agents, but you are building for humans who are finally going to be your consumers, while making it easy for AI as well as for humans then to dive deep and then complete that final step where they purchase from you. Having said that, one is the UX part of it. Second is the overall consumer journey. That would have even more transformation, in my opinion, because the workflow, the way it would start, it might start with AI, then human would take over, and then again it would go back to AI for, let's say, negotiations, right? Especially in categories like ours, where a lot of it is an experiential category. People want to really look at those products by themselves before they trust. So how do you build that trust? That becomes very important. So moving from agent to human to agent to consumers without losing the context, and how do you build that? That's the real key.
Yeah, absolutely. I will dive in more. But I think one of the changes that we've seen around us is that if you look at a lot of products today, they give you the ability to visualize that product in your room.
True.
And I think what Anup is touching on is that experiential layer as well. We don't know how that is going to play out purely in an agent to agent interaction. Let's see if we have an opportunity to dive into it as we go along. So Mohan, I'm going to come to you next. See, as discovery shifts from the consumer side, this creates challenges on the merchant side as well. And so as you're building payments infrastructure that serves a lot of merchants, from where you sit, are merchants actually ready for this? Is agent readiness becoming a real requirement? And what does the infrastructure look like to support something like this?
I mean, initially I talked about the entire revolution of AI, right? I mean, for example, some of the use cases that we can take in the case of payment aggregators. What happens is previously merchants come to us asking us for, like, let's say there is one merchant like Rahul who is running some furniture shop in Pune, and he also has an online business. What really happens is many times he comes to us asking for, why is my cart abandonment so high, right? Similarly, he will also ask questions, and then again he has to wait, and then we will answer that. Then subsequently, why is my success rates being low? Again, we will do the analysis, and then we will give them back. Now, with all agentic AI coming into picture, what really happened is, without them asking, right, we will be able to solve that problems. Like, let's say there is an agent e-commerce solution of PayU, where the customer is actually making discovery of a particular product, and then when they were buying the product, they have stopped the payment, right? the agent will intelligently identify that this is a high value transaction which customer has spent so much time doing that particular interaction, and then figuring out, like, at that instant of time, it can recommend the customer, because it is a high value transaction which customer actually wants to see how the product looks like before they buy. What we actually do is, the agent can intelligently tell them, just reserve now and then pay later, right? So the kind of experiences that we can think of has significantly, opportunities wise, it is absolutely huge at this point of time. But the thing is, what Mouli has rightly pointed out, the right infrastructure is absolutely required. I mean, take some example, like let's say Priya, she is a techie and she is using agents for her day-to-day operations. If she is making payments using Agentic AI, which is like probably she might have been doing it for small groceries and all that stuff. Now, there is some malicious agent who has taken that information of Priya and then actually started making huge value transactions. Eventually, Priya seeing a huge bill. That's a huge problem if agents start making payments, right? So we require an huge infrastructure to actually, I mean, there is a change in paradigm of how we actually do payments with this transition also. That means previously we see whether it is Priya or not, whether it is her OTP, these are the kind of things that we talk about. Now it has changed something like, is this agent the real agent or not? What is the identity of this particular agent, right? So that becomes absolutely important. Similarly, as part of that infrastructure, again, authorization, right? As part of authorization, what really happens is, generally for cards, we keep limits, right? So even when agent is making payments, ensuring that the limits and guardrails are there also becomes absolutely important. That too, probably for different products, having different controls becomes absolutely important, right? The third factor is our ability to do risk analysis, right? We should be able to look at patterns of the agent, how it has actually previously behaved, and now whether it is the right agent which is actually making payments, right? So that is another dimension in which we should be able to think about. And when you find anomalies, eventually our ability to actually take confirmation from the user instead of just making the payments, our ability to identify intents also becomes absolutely important to ensure that we have a better experience for the end customers.
Yeah. I think the layers that you're talking about, I think has both a consumer angle and a merchant angle. So maybe as Sudheer and Vikram touch on it, I'm sure we'll cover some of those pieces because there's a governance angle and risk angle, and we'll get to that as well as we go along. So I'm going to come to Vikram next. So see, merchants are adapting, but there's a bigger strategic question here, Vikram. Who controls demand? Okay. So Vikram, you invest in what's coming, right? You teach several courses as well. For the last decade, platforms own demand, like Amazon, Flipkart, Google. Okay. Now, as discovery shifts to AI intermediaries, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, you pick your favorite, general purpose LLM, is demand control moving away from traditional platforms? Where does economic value sit?
Yeah, good question. So when we talk about, let's think like this, right? Today, when we see the real numbers in the digital economy, you will not believe, but today, what we call as a embedded finance, right? Or connected commerce, those transactions are around 60%, which means that when you go to make my trip and during that journey, you are consuming, let's say, EMI as a product or insurance as a product, right? So that is already as a embedded journey. So when we look at the current scenario, we already see that the growth of embedded commerce is much, much higher, or connected commerce is much higher. Similar to that, we will see two of the possibilities that I can envisage, and we will see one of them or both of them materializing, who knows. One is that whenever we talk about discovery layer, we always talk about that, okay, we are now going from search to AI, and because of that, you have, rather than SEO, answer engine optimization, generative engine optimization coming in, right? And that layer will give you the new perspective that, look, my personalized data, whatever chat I have done based on that, my preferences which are stored in the chat GPTs of the world will help me identify better suitable product. And that is the reason I may go for that more and more, right? So there is a reason why somebody will go. And unless until that reason is taken away, nobody will care about whatever is the discovery engine that you use. Second point is that when we talk about loyalty, in India, while nobody cares about, let's say, the product brand value, people look at the real value, whether you are getting something tangible or not, and then loyalty comes later. So here the same thing will happen. As long as you are able to get value, you are happy and you are finding it. Now, the stickiness will come because of the content that you have in past discussed with your AI, right? And that will then demand more switching cost. Because if you switch, you need to bring that analysis and personalization context to that another app, right? So I believe that that will create the stickiness. And the last point, which is very critical, is for agentic commerce to become successful from discovery to real execution, what you really want is many-to-many channel integration. Because look, your channel can be ChatGPT or it can be WhatsApp connected to ChatGPT. It can be anything. Right? Today you have any channel connecting you to AI as a service. But ultimately to succeed, you need to have connection also with all these e-commerce stores, right? So most of the times you get WhatsApp message from your mom or dad saying that please buy this. I can just forward it to AI and AI can figure out that, okay, in my mobile I have Swiggy, Zomato, whatever available, I can switch certain order item to that and certain items are on Amazon, so on and so forth. So till the time this multi-channel integration is not there, it will not be seamless and it will still take that sort of discovery to buying journey sometime. That's right.
I think there's a complexity here that I want the audience to appreciate. I think like the catalog that merchants have should be available real time. Preferences, as Vikram was just highlighting from the consumer angle, should be available. But the many-to-many relationship also becomes super important because you don't want to get tied down as a merchant to one platform. So this kind of marketplace is going to evolve. And then, the piece that Anup was mentioning earlier in terms of discovery becomes super important, right? Then how does an agent make a decision to come to a particular a merchant? Through which channel? So there are several complexities here, and the jury is still out, right? Because this is one of the more early conversations that we are having in terms of how commerce will play out. But it's fascinating to see. So I'm going to jump to Sudheer, and then maybe I'll come back to the other panelists. Sudheer, I'm coming to you after these three because you're in a very interesting, complex space. Okay, and the reason is because you have to make complex decision, multivariable decisions. So real-time pricing, loyalty programs, cancellation policies, which class of travel I prefer, right? Now, and you mentioned, as we were catching up earlier as well, that you are using AI agents as well to do a lot of transactions on your behalf. So how close do you think current systems are to managing these decisions end to end? I think your perspective is important because you have a consumer side and you kind of close it with the airlines as well, right? And so end to end, if you can stitch what the other panelists have shared from your own experiences being the founder of this TripGain company, like your perspectives will be very valuable for us.
Awesome. So first of all, everybody touched upon a lot of very important points. I will stick to, again, the business travel and the problems that we are solving today, right? In terms of where we are, from discovery to the fulfillment part, right? You see, travel was the first industry to be disrupted in terms of e-commerce. And travel is the first industry to have millions and millions of transactions happen online, which means the systems are already mature, which means that the data is all right there. The automations are all right there. Now, if you ask me the maturity of where the agentic systems are in travel, today at TripGain, our customers are basically searching and they're querying The system is able to apply all the policies. The system is able to recommend top 5 options. So basically, agentic AI is already removing the cognitive load completely from the consumer because it knows exactly who he is, which department he belongs to, which company, what is the policy that needs to be applied. And then when it comes to the actual travel systems, so the connectors to the airlines, the connectors to the hotels, the connectors to the uh, taxis, they're all ready, right? So, long story short, what I want to tell is that agentic AI in travel is already solving 80%. If I'm, it may be an exaggeration to a lot of people, but this is what we are seeing firsthand in our own platform, which is TripGain. So 70 to 80% is already there. For example, if somebody wants to go from Bangalore to Mumbai for 3 days, and he needs a 5-star hotel near BKC, and he wants to stay there for 3 days, right? It's a matter of seconds that the AI is now able to recommend it, right? Because it knows exactly which airline the user has a frequent flyer number on. For example, if he has a frequent flyer number on Air India or a blue chip number of Indigo, right? And and there is a very clear, well-defined policy. It takes about 25 seconds for it to say that okay, these are the 3 options, and the first one is most recommended. So there's absolutely zero cognitive load on the end business traveler. And if you look at business travel specifically, right, it's not like a leisure travel where the consumer derives a dopamine by actually searching and planning. In business travel, it is this non-core thing, right? So what is happening today is that they're more than happy to just open the WhatsApp, TripGain's AI WhatsApp, and just send a voice message to it, and it's done, right? So now comes the second part. The second part is where exactly the buck stops. Like why it is 80% and why not 100% when all the systems are so mature, right? The point is that the agentic AI works beautifully when it is constrained and when there is a very clear boundary to it. So the rules are well defined, the policies are well defined, and it tells exactly what to do and where to stop, right? With the other 20%, what happens is in more often than not in business travel, we all travel, right? There are last minute changes. Then, for example, it gets very complicated when you're actually planning a multi-city international trip, which requires multiple visas, right? It gets very tricky over there. I mean, like the harder you try to train the AI on that, the more you fail, right? So it's not yet there. So in those cases, what we've done is that instead of trying too hard, we basically built a human in the loop, and we hand it over to the human and let him take care of that. So that's where we are right now.
You touched on a follow-up question that I had on the human assistance piece. I think that's great. Okay, so we'll move the conversation along. So I'm going to bring up a topic that Anup touched in his opening remark. So maybe I'll open it up to Sudheer, Vikram, and Anup. Or open it up to the panel. Mohan, I don't want you to feel left out. So, see, the negotiation layer is a super, interesting layer because humans generally are very good at it, right? I mean, like, there are people, in our families who are really good at negotiation and some people who suck at it. Like, okay, so the negotiation layer. So, see, coming from a company like PayPal, we already see automated systems making real-time decisions, right? Fraud, risk optimization. What's emerging that we see is machine-to-machine negotiation, right? So AI representing a consumer interacting with AI representing a merchant. So no human on either side. Let's assume, that scenario. So Sudhir, Vikram, maybe to the panel, right? So maybe you can pick your, area of focus, right? Like in travel, obviously, machine to machine. Vikram, like for example, right, in new market behaviors, right, as they emerge, dynamic pricing, how do you prevent collusion risks, and so on. Anup, you touched on it in the beginning as well, right, in terms of negotiation, right? And so, can you guys chime in on this whole negotiation layer? What it is today? How do you see it evolving, in the agent-to-agent world?
So I'll start with that.
Vikram, go ahead. Yeah.
So interestingly, this topic, what you mentioned, is evolving as we speak. And there are protocols which are coming up which can support this sort of agent-to-agent negotiation, right? Or agent-to-machine or machine-to-machine. So when we talk about the existing practices, right? When we talk about even non-machine practice, you always had this reverse auction as we speak. And that is one of the ways in which you can have machine-to-machine negotiation in a very simple way. You have set of rules defined, and it is a very transparent model where you cannot collude or you can't do much because the way it works is very clear. But then you have more innovative dynamic pricing models, etc., where you are able to show certain things. And this is where you can say that, okay, there are zero knowledge proof available that, look, I have given you enough information to decide on something, right? And now you decide based on this enough information, and only those data points are available which are required for making a sound commercial decision, right? And this is a mathematical proof that you can present, and based on that, there are protocols which are coming up. So if you are interested, you can Google UCP from Google, or A2P also is there. You can check that out. Now, when we talk about all these new protocols and services, one thing that you mentioned and you spoke about is about how do you ensure the negotiation can also include, let's say, human if required, right? So similarly, we have seen in past that whenever machine-related negotiations has happened in bond market or financial market, you always had a range that, okay, you will not reveal the upper range, but you will always have a range saying that, okay, I will start at this, you automatically go up, but reveal only certain things, right? I will not go for all the quantity also at the same point in time. I will not reveal my full price as well. So that is the dynamic nature at which these things can work. And that is how people are also envisaging it.
I'll take it.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
So, in travel specifically, right, there is very little scope for negotiation. Let me start off with that, because when the pricing is changing very frequently, I mean, like, even if the AI wants to negotiate with somebody, it can't, right? So by the time it actually negotiates, the price would have changed already. But then there is one specific area of travel I would like to highlight, where we are actively trying to build a negotiation layer. That is purely because that is the only area where there is a possibility of machine-to-machine interaction in a very well-defined price bid kind of thing, right? So, for example, this happens when you are organizing. Let's say, for example, you are an enterprise and you are organizing town hall, which let's say in Dubai, for example, right? Now, what you generally do today is that you basically send a query to your travel agency or individual airlines, and then you wait for the airline to say, okay, fine, this is the price. And then you come back and say that, no, this is not the price. I would probably I want a lower price, right? So this is one area where I think the negotiation in travel shines. And this is one area which can be disrupted and which we are actively working on. But then the point is that here the beauty is that the negotiating party, which is the first party, which is AI, the other party may or may not be an AI, it can be a machine itself, right? So the first party should have enough context, enough information, enough historical pricing information to tell that, okay, this is the price for this particular season, for this particular destination. Now I have a clear boundary, and the humans or the person who is actually wanting to negotiate should set the priority, right? Let's say, for example, you can go up to 4 negotiations, or you can say this is very urgent and you have to close it quickly. Yeah. The agents are able to demonstrate, at least in our early trials, this is possible. And the next stage will be where the agents will actually do a voice call to travel agents or the people who are retailing this and negotiate on their behalf. So that's my 2 cents.
Anup, you wanted to add something to this, please, because you mentioned it in the beginning. Yeah,
I'll quickly add to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So one for consumers, that is B2C business and B2B business. All the brands will have to be a lot more transparent. Only a few power users today can go and see the pricing history and then determine whether they're getting the right price or not.
Yes.
With this, and then a lot of price discovery is via campaigns today. The marketing team would run the campaigns and they would get to see the coupons from there and then you apply. So that would change to a great extent where your coupons and offers would be available via your APIs and the agents then would take call to do that. And in case of B2B scenarios, the balance sheet of the organization needs to be open to these models. When you have to negotiate, for example, we are also into B2B business.
Yeah.
If you don't understand the variable margin and COGS,
Yeah.
depending upon the requirement that is coming via agent, how would the agent going to take that call?
Yeah.
So that becomes extremely.
Yeah, what is it optimizing for? Absolutely.
Right.
And it's a dynamic optimization. It's not always the same thing that you want to do, right? So absolutely. So I'm going to move to another important layer, which is the transaction layer. Okay. And Mohan touched on this in the beginning. See, if you think about traditional payments, you assume a human is at the keyboard, right? Now, in agentic commerce, every assumption is broken. There is an agent that is present, a human that is potentially absent. Identity must be verified, but the question is that what identity are you verifying? Consent must be explicit, but also, as the other panelists touched on it, the operating boundaries also are super important. Now, so the question shifts from, is this a legitimate human to, is this a legitimate agent acting on behalf of a legitimate human within authorized parameters, right? And so it's a fascinating thing. So probably it's like we're going to go from KYC to KYA. So it's like know your agent. Probably we'll have to see how that paradigm evolves. So maybe let me jump into the question, right? So from a payments infrastructure perspective, Mohan, how are you thinking about agent-initiated transactions? Anup, is this also in your radar? So I'm just, throwing out, context for, both of you, because there's a significant amount of checkout. There's a consumer-facing angle, Anup, to what you do as well. So if both of you can chime in, and then Sudheer and Vikram can add if we have time. So Mohan, we'll start with you.
So as I have already covered previously also to some extent, while we are building that infrastructure, security is absolutely important. Agents should have unique identities, like how humans will have Aadhaar kind of thing. Probably agents will have like agent 1 to 3 kind of numbers, which we will keep. It's not only just agents being and their information being stored. We would require their agent behavioral patterns also. Like when you take different LLMs also, LLMs generally have patterns basically. And when the agent is working in the context of a particular user prompts, right? The kind of behaviors which should also be understood. Compared to humans, agents has a different way of behaviors, right? So understanding that will also help us a lot. Then subsequently, the risk analysis that we do, generally for merchants, it has to happen for even in the case of agents as well. Yeah. Thanks.
Anup.
Yeah. So we are all for it whenever it happens. But till the time, I think we would be fast followers in this particular area where maybe till the addition to the cart, and after that, let human come into the picture till the time the trust is built. The way websites have all the phishing, so you copy a brand website and then you run your phishing scams from there. How do you stop all those things from happening? Some of these things are, the balls are still in the air, so we would wait on that.
Yeah.
So should I add something to that?
Please, Vikram. Yeah.
So besides what they mentioned, right? So typically agentic transactions in future will look like these 3 different types. One is human present, and agent is doing something, asking human that you want to proceed. That is a human present transaction. Then you have
like a card present, card not present analogy.
Similar to that.
Yes.
Similar to that. So then you will have another type of transaction when human is authorizing the agent that, okay, now you decide, for example, travel industry example, that you book the flight at this rate. If it is below this, just book it, right? So you are pre-authorizing the agent, but human is not there after that, right? So it is but a single agent, right? So you have single agent working on some objective. Then third type is going to be where you are authorizing that agent who will be orchestrator rather than single agent who will orchestrate multiple different agents. For example, in travel, you have one orchestrator who can then book flight ticket, or another agent it can create to book, let's say, hotel ticket or place of interest or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can then organize all these things. So all these three transactions will have different modus operandi, right? Because the safest one is human present transaction, because you are there and you can authorize, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Second type of transaction is where you have a payment tokenization in place, where you are saying, okay, I have given one token to this parent agent and it will work because it is a single agent. But then you have this sort of orchestrator where you require parent token, sub token, and so on and so forth, which can allow it to have a combined budget. Because let's say if you are able to negotiate and save on flight booking, maybe you can use it for hotel as well, right?
Very nice.
So you can use that way. And the interesting challenge
It
is
has to
that
be real time as well.
real time.
Yeah.
It has to be real time. And interestingly, you will find challenges also in that. For example, prompt injection. Let's assume that is one of the challenges. Second challenge, which is very interesting, is that whenever we talk about agentic payment, and many times you have this synth ID for, let's say, Gemini, you can identify that, okay, it is coming from this. But today you have model routers, like you have open router, so on and so forth. You have model router which can route based on the requirement, right? You will have similar to that quasi AI-based payment model routers, which will decide that, okay, given this requirement, this is how I need to use stored data and make the payment. And that will create another layer of sophistication.
Very nice. I'm going to jump into a very important topic. We have 5 minutes left on, I probably, which is a topic top of everybody's mind, which is on trust and accountability, right? So, okay, yeah, you're letting machine to machine, agent to agent, but what happens? I mean, if something goes wrong, right? And so I'm going to get maybe Vikram and, Sudheer to chime in. So, from a trust and accountability perspective, when an AI agent clicks pay, who's liable? Okay, so Sudheer, I'm going to probably start with you. So there's a human accountable for delegation because you authorize the agent.
Right.
A platform accountable for agent behavior within parameters. So there's a platform angle, right? Vikram was touching on it. Merchant accountable for fulfillment. And then a payment network accountable for transaction integrity. Okay. So liability gets distributed based on where failure occurs. But do we need new infrastructure? Like Mohan was touching on this, persistent agent identities, reputation systems. Okay. So maybe Sudheer, I'll start with you.
Sure.
When an agent book travel goes wrong, how does recourse work?
This is a very complicated question, but I'll try and simplify it, right? So what recourse are we talking about here, right? Are we talking about a recourse where who's legally liable for, for the misdoings of the agent, or who is morally liable, or who is responsible to build a trusted and a very predictable and reliable agent? So I'll leave the first two because it's very subjective, and there's no framework as such right now. But I believe there will be a framework, like someone said, there has to be a know your agent kind of thing, where a third party audits your agents and then they certify that, okay, this agent is like something like a PCI DSS certified agent or something like that. But then when it comes to practicality, I'll stress more upon the practicality part. But people who are building agents, right? Obviously, end of the day, even if they claim that they are not liable, end of the day, it is their reputation which is at stake. So the recourse right now, how it happens is that a human will come into picture. He will look at what has gone wrong. He will do an RCA, and then let's say in terms of travel, for example, a consumer booked a ticket from Bangalore to London on the 27th of March, but then the system booked it for 27th of April, right?
Yeah.
What happens then is usually the person who is providing the software is liable for that, and then they reach out to the airlines, and then they request for a refund and so on and so forth. So in the agentic workflow also, there have to be guardrails built in at every stage. This is where the domain comes into picture, right? So the greater the domain knowledge that you have, the larger the guardrails that you can build, the beautiful the guardrails that you can build, so that you clearly define a boundary to the agent and let it play in an autonomy inside that boundary. And then you clearly tell the agent that outside this boundary, this is when you have to now hand it over to the human. Okay, that is one part of thing. The other part to specifically address, let's say, if the booking goes wrong, right? What we are doing today is that if the channel is from an AI, so we are making sure that we only book 100% refundable tickets, so that if something goes wrong, it can be refunded instantly without any penalties. The second thing is that we have a replay kind of a feature in our system where we are exactly able to replay what exactly our agent has shown the consumer, what consumer has asked, when did the consumer give the consent to it, so that there is a clear RCA inbuilt in each and every conversation.
Very nice. So Vikram touched on a lot of the market pieces. Vikram, anything to add? 30 seconds
quick,
on market
very quick
structures.
on that.
Yeah.
So when we talk about agent agency, based on the case studies that we have seen so far in the global market, one thing which comes out is that whenever we talk about the approval, right? So trigger, who is, let's say, doing the trigger part, right? And at the same point in time, the ambiguity should be zero, which means that if you are saying that buy this, then it should authorize, when you're authorizing it, it should be very clear that it will be bought at, let's say, this price, and it is clear. As long as it is documented and it is agreed upon, there is no issue. But the moment there is ambiguity and it does something else, then it is a platform problem.
Very good. As we come to the end of the discussion, I'm going to ask the panelists to leave us with, maybe one thought very quickly. One thought as agentic commerce is set to explode. So we'll start with Sudheer and then wrap up with Vikram.
I'll not bore you guys. I think agentic AI is coming for everybody. Okay, so fasten your seatbelts.
Excellent. Anup.
Yeah, trust is the fuel for agentic AI. So,
very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Great thought. Yes, Mohan.
The experiences are changing for people. The way in which businesses operate will have to change because we are shifting in such a way that instead of just buying products, businesses who understand the intent of the people, that is where they will get huge differentiation. That's what.
Very nice. Vikram.
Be skeptical but not cynical.
Excellent. It's fascinating discussion. I learned a lot from the panelists as well. So a round of applause for this amazing panel.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mouli.
you for having
very thoughtful questions. I really enjoyed the panel.
Thank you. Of course.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. This is a talk that you're going to watch back 2-3 years later. So the video, hopefully the organizers save and make us all look good 3 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Very well done moderating this panel discussion, Mr. Mouli. And thank you so much to all of our eminent speakers for joining us out here and sharing with us thoughtful perspectives, talking about agentic AI. I especially love what you said, Mr. Sudheer, that it's coming for all of us. So you best be vigilant and we best look forward to it and be well prepped. Gentlemen, before I could let you exit the stage, if I could request you to come towards the front of the stage for a quick photo opportunity. Please put your hands together, everyone. Once again, let's give a loud round of applause to our eminent panelists joining us here, talking to us and sharing with us insightful perspectives about next-gen consumer journeys. Thank you so much for joining us.